The tale unfolds in a sprawling metropolis. But all was amiss. The undead were ubiquitous. A horde of them shambled and growled before a grocery store. Some devoured the remains of corpses. It was a gruesome spectacle. An unusual zombie materialized, a shovel in its grasp. Distinct from the rest, it bypassed them and made for the market. This peculiar walker opened the market door and went inside. Numerous undead moved within the market, wreaking havoc. The atypical ghoul looked about and dropped a sack it carried. Off its shoulder, it approached a food display and began filling the sack. Once full of voice told the zombie to leave. As the zombie reached the exit, a voice commanded it to halt and fetch a Coke. The zombie obeyed and departed the market. He then took another route, bypassing other undead. A guy carefully popped open the red and white soda the walker had retrieved for him. The carbonation released with a soft sigh. Gulping a large mouthful, he sensed the chilled beverage permeate his weary frame, briefly invigorating him. Perched on the building's rooftop edge, he observed the walker beside him. That particular undead was Ling's minion. Feeling a sense of achievement, Ling contemplated how his zombie control had advanced. From earlier, the guy's name was Ling Mo. He was merely a regular pupil. Ling pondered the moment. A novel disease appeared in their town. 2 weeks prior, the plague mutated countless individuals into the undead. Undead are the most insane, monstrous beings that could only slay. The living had no option but to conceal like vermin. They were fighting hard to endure. Undoubtedly, the metropolis became a domain of the deceased. In a matter of days, when all these awful events were occurring concurrently, a fortunate event happened to Ling Mo. He discovered he possessed command over the undead. Ling wielded supernatural abilities. He could manipulate those grotesque creatures with his enchanted lash, and eliminated many of them. Ling understood he could dominate the undead, because he possessed the gift to forge a link between himself and the walking dead. The reanimated were mere marionettes incapable of thought, so it was simple for Ling to establish a bond between them and utilize them as his tools. Ling unearthed his power within a narrow passage, and several undead encircled him, intending to slay him. Yet the ghouls were unsuccessful. As Ling vanquished them all, Ling discerned he acquired further insights concerning the undead. Eventually, so Ling could maneuver his undead marionette from afar. Ling's faith in his remarkable sorcery skills surged within him. As he emptied the last bit of soda, with steadfast determination, he felt he would traverse the dangerous, walker-infested zone safely and come out untouched. Holding a worn photo, Ling gazed at the picture of himself and a young lady in their academy attire. Undoubtedly, she was his close companion, and he was resolved to locate her. Ling muttered to the girl in the image, vowing to do anything to discover her and rejoin her quickly. Ling directed his undead marionette back to their lodging and started his trek, adding they would depart again. The following morning, Ling was slumbering. His phone abruptly rang. He picked up, and a voice spoke. The voice urged him to awaken. It's late. Ling, still sleepy, tried to identify the caller, but the voice said she was driving. After buying ribs for Ling to prepare a tasty dinner, Ling knew the caller was Yilian. Ling attempted to speak to Yilian to inquire something he had always wondered, but Yilian cut him off. Ling grew eager and exclaimed he hadn't expressed himself yet. Yilian questioned him, but Ling couldn't voice it. As an alternative, he vowed to be anything she desired. Ling uttered her name, longing to confess his love. Before completing his thought, he perceived Yilian to be astonished. Ling hollered Yilian's name again and again, but solely heard Yilian urge him to flee. Abruptly, he awakened in bed and grasped it was a mere vision. He further recalled it was the day of the cataclysm. He greatly yearned for Yilian. Luckily, Ling had excellently secured the undead marionette the prior day. The fatigued undead marionette felt exasperated, so Ling encouraged him to unwind. Giving a key to the marionette, Ling directed it to activate the motor. It was the moment for them to depart. Ling exited his dwelling and observed that Yelian's residence was across the road, but it was overrun with undead. He deemed it perilous to endeavor to traverse that path. Hordes of undead were on the street, emitting eerie noises. Detecting someone cry for aid, Ling tried to proceed in that direction, but the undead reversed and advanced towards Ling and his marionette, a low growl emanating Ling and his marionette tricked the undead and found refuge by an automobile. Ling and his puppet located a stairway and opted to use it to outsmart the undead. However, they spotted two individuals pleading for assistance. Ling believed it unwise to yell for help then, as it would lure more undead. Sadly, his hunch proved correct. The noise of the people seeking aid drew the undead toward them. The undead breached the barrier and assaulted the defenseless people. They screamed in terror and desperation, but it was lost beneath the zombie growls. Ling felt perplexed. He couldn't grasp why he lacked empathy, as zombies devoured two people. Moreover, he sensed something peculiar. Ling attempted to discern if that feeling was enjoyment. He wondered if his bond with his zombie marionette was altering his personality. These feelings led him to introspection. He realized he had to utilize his unique ability. Ling understood he couldn't rescue Yahello without his undead marionette. So Ling directed his puppet to explore the vicinity. He reasoned Yahello's residence was nearby. She couldn't have gone far, but undead roamed everywhere outside. Eerie noises filled the streets. Suddenly, Ling noticed a large crimson bus numbered 618, but it was dilapidated. So Ling suspected a vehicular collision, but he fretted over the occupants inside. He feared they might be trapped and deceased, and transformed into the undead. Ling commanded his puppet to hasten, but then a thought struck him. He told the puppet to halt, and recalled Yahello always took the 618 bus when visiting him while he was deep in thought. Ling's undead marionette expressed a wish to enter the bus, and did so before Ling could restrain it. Ling was forced to trail the marionette onto the vehicle, where he noticed a female with her spine facing him. He recognized it was Yahello and couldn't resist shouting her moniker. Much to his dismay, she had transformed into a walking corpse. Yahello pivoted and commenced ambling toward Ling, her orbs blazing crimson and her countenance contorted in a vicious grimace. She started shrieking and dashing at Ling, obviously aiming to assault him. Yahello possessed monstrously large, scarlet eyes and savagely assailed Ling's undead puppet, puncturing its stomach with her dexter hand. Ling was stunned to observe the brutality, and was astonished by Yahello's capacity to perform such an act. The reanimated puppet was gravely wounded, and Yahello's blow propelled the puppet soaring afar within the coach. Abruptly, Ling sensed something amiss. He discerned that the other walking corpses on the conveyance had tainted Yahello. Resolute, he understood he needed to devise a brilliant scheme. He had already expended considerable exertion to locate Yahello. He couldn't let all that effort be for nothing. Ling also pondered if Yahello could destroy his undead minion. She might flee. Ling concentrated and thought carefully. He desired to command Yahello, primarily to rescue her. Ling attempted to detect Yahello's soul with his mystical abilities, unleashing his own essence to locate hers. Ling's spirit nearly reached Yahello's, but when her soul opened its eyes, they were lethal and crimson like flames. This made Ling's spirit briefly lose its composure, and Yahello's spirit assaulted it. Both returned to their bodies, with Yahello severely harming Ling. Despite this, Ling, being intelligent, grasped what had transpired, so he unleashed his essence again with his power, and permitted it to connect with Yahello's soul once more. Ling observed that Yahello's soul was fighting back at that moment, preventing him from dominating her. Ling's spirit, nevertheless, was quite considerate, and felt that if Yahello could reclaim her consciousness, she'd be all right. This was the sole method to stop her transformation into a zombie. Ling's essence was resolute, and in spite of the countless possibilities of defeat, it selected the route that could restore Yahello to normalcy. Ling's essence grasped that if Yahello rejected Ling, she'd turn into a zombie. So it unleashed several magical lashes to seize Yahello's spirit, aiming for ultimate triumph. Ling's essence captured Yahello's spirit. In truth, Ling soothed Yahello, and he could at last breathe a sigh of contentment. As Ling observed Yahello near the body of his zombie marionette, he perceived she sought something different. Despite his objections, she pressed onward, moving directly toward the puppet's cerebellum. Ling's hunches were affirmed when Yahello revealed a tablet shape, crimson goo from the walker's head. Though hesitant, Ling encouraged Yahello to ingest the goo. To his astonishment, she complied. Instantly, Ling felt a wave of calm engulf him, and he sensed Yahello felt similarly. Ling was overjoyed. The goo was truly extraordinary. Abruptly, both Yalian and Ling were in a serene location. Yalian seemed weary and sorrowful, with tattered garments and blood coating her, but her eyes still blazed with resolve. Ling extended his hand and caressed Yelian's face, displaying his empathy for her and vowing to improve things. As Ling comforted Yelian, the magic whip's grip weakened, and Yelian recovered her unyielding power, lashing out at Ling regardless. Ling, being the sharpest of all, deduced that the psychic link had diminished, and that Yelian would attempt to slay him again. Yelian couldn't permit that. He composed himself and concentrated on his power. Meanwhile, Yelian was on the verge of striking Yelian, but he mustered his might and regained command of Yelian. He pacified her once more. Afterward, Yelian desired to escort Yelian somewhere, to assist her in cleansing herself and changing attire. They were outside Shin's apparel store when they observed 4 undead wandering in front of the establishment. Ling was astonished by Yelian's conduct. She appeared resolute to assault the undead and gather all the goo. Ling believed these gels were providing Yelian with enjoyment. He drew his blade and declared his intent to accompany Yelian, but Yelian was unwilling to delay. While Ling was contemplating all this, she engaged the undead and swiftly vanquished them. Ling recognized that if he didn't enhance himself, he would forfeit control of Yelian. Also, if Yelian eliminated him, he would never be capable of aiding her recuperation. He was positive that she was quite. As Yelian continued battling the undead, Ling became pensive. He knew if he couldn't maintain Yelian's pace, he'd lose her indefinitely, unable to locate her in the sprawling metropolis. Thus, Ling resolved to aid Yelian. Jointly, they combated and vanquished several undead. Valiantly, they fought, overcoming all zombies in their way. Ling cautiously holstered his blade and watched Yelian gather the gels from the zombies' minds. With resolve, Ling couldn't resist, pondering the substantial effects of those gels on Yelian. He also discerned that while confronting the undead, he experienced no terror, and when Yelian unleashed his fury, Ling felt its influence. Moreover, ingesting the gels seemed to invigorate Ling, providing him a considerable strength surge. When Ling and Yelian eventually arrived at the apparel store, they discovered it empty. Ling was uncertain which garment to select, and as she deliberated, Yelian appeared pensive. They located a restroom and noticed Yelian was preoccupied. Ling helped her tidy up and change attire. When Ling and Yelian returned to Ling's residence, Ling seemed outwardly tranquil, but there was an underlying feeling of disquiet. He couldn't shake the sense that something was bothering him. Conversely, Ling was astonished by the visible results of the bomb Yelian had applied the previous day. Despite their separation, Ling still felt a potent spiritual bond with Yelian, as if it had lingered throughout his slumber. Suddenly, Ling heard a subtle noise emanating from Yelian's form, leading him to inquire if she was attempting to convey her thoughts to him in a novel, enigmatic manner. Ling couldn't help but ponder the notion that Yelian might require sustenance. Ling found himself deep in thought. He contemplated how both he and Yelian eliminated a horde of undead, and how Yelian devoured all the serum, extracted from the zombies' minds. Yet a nagging feeling persisted, that something was gravely amiss with Yelian. She was feeble and collapsed on the floor. So Ling transported her to an adjacent chamber. Ling was deeply concerned for Yelian, having lost command over her multiple times, a potentially perilous situation. He needed to strive to sustain dominance over their connection. And Yelian, furthermore, he felt the extraordinary potency of the brain serum had transformed both Yelian and him. With time, Yelian gradually roused and was on her bed. Ling approached her, worry in his gaze, and asked about her condition, but Yelian remained silent. Wang Lin was resting at his store. His companion was looking for something. As he gazed through the field glasses, he noticed Ling and Yelian nearing Wang's blade shop. They stood outside the store, seemingly heavily damaged. Wang Lin's pal urged Ling to awaken. Noticing their approach, Ling roused, grabbed the binoculars, and tried to discern the approaching individuals. Her buddy was uncertain of their identities, proposing they could be fellow survivors. Lin was deep in thought, almost missing her friend. Attempting to say something she was engrossed with, recalling the man who visited her shop, her companion voiced worry over a knife. What if the strangers took it? Lin suddenly returned to focus and counseled her friend on handling things. She cautioned against yelling, since it could lure more walkers. Lin then wished for their well-being and stressed the gravity of the possible hazards they might encounter. Moreover, Lin reassured her companion that a regular person wouldn't be aware of her concealed blade and sword. She had hidden her dagger in a secret location, guaranteeing it remained undiscovered. As Lin and Yilian entered the store, Yilian started searching for the workplace. He quickly found an employee room, only to discover the entrance secured internally. Ling tapped the entrance, asking if anyone was present. Detecting trouble, he told Yilian to keep watch. Abruptly, a booming bellow resonated from inside, and a gigantic hand smashed through the entryway. Grabbing for Ling, the door cracked and fractured. As Ling understood, they faced a mutated walker. Its hellish howl sent chills along their backs, making it clear about the immediate peril they confronted. Ling spotted a hand emerge from the doorway and heard a ferocious bellow from beyond. He swiftly drew his blade and urged Yalian to remain behind him. With a knife, Ling severed the hand protruding through the entrance, then slammed the door against the creature's legs and struck its knees. Ling cried out as the monstrous mutant howled in reply. Despite his attempts to pierce the mutant, the being rose and repelled him. Ling recognized the mutant's immense power. As the mutant lunged toward Ling, roaring, Yalian seized the moment and ambushed the mutant, impaling its torso. The undead monstrosity had its left hand severed and a gaping wound in its chest. Despite its wounds, Ling knew it remained formidable. Left with no alternatives, he mustered his remaining energy and assaulted the mutant. Once more, he targeted the creature's head and vanquished it. However, Ling also sensed he was near death. As he surveyed the area, he noticed numerous corpses and grasped the scale of the creature's devastation. Suddenly, Ling observed Yilian. Although she was present, she harbored a different objective. Yi approached the creature's head and retrieved a green substance. She was on the verge of consuming it, but Ling intervened because he wanted to examine the substance first. Ling inspected the substance meticulously, observing it emitted a more intense radiance than the usual zombie substance. Recognizing this might suggest a greater density of the virus, he understood the necessity for increased vigilance. Ling also contemplated the significance of locating a safe haven for recuperation. Should Yi ingest the substance and succumb to its consequences, Ling recognized he too could become incapacitated. Ling quickly muttered to Yilian they couldn't proceed without acquiring some arms first. As they examined the meticulously crafted arms on display, Ling's enthusiasm swelled. He couldn't resist, but recognized the superb prestige of Wang's blade shop. Ling couldn't help contemplating. If these arms were offered publicly, they would command thousands of yuan apiece. Due to their exceptional artistry, Ling's foot accidentally hit something firm. While he was preoccupied, it seemed like a concealed compartment or cache. Ling lifted the tile and uncovered something remarkable. There were genuine blades. Ling mused, those weapons must be phenomenal and incredibly potent as they were concealed. So he grabbed them after gathering the weapons. Ling and Yilian exited the shop. Wang Lin gazed through her binoculars and observed Ling had taken her prize dagger. Consumed by rage and disappointment, she unleashed a sharp cry. Ling, puzzled by her companion's unexpected outburst, was clueless about what occurred. It hit Lin that the two people who had dropped by her shop were behind eliminating the monster and swiping her cherished blade. She had ventured to the market, aiming to buy that specific knife, and now it was taken from her. The revelation ignited her wrath. Trying to calm her down, Lin's pal reminded her the weapon was already lost, and that the offenders couldn't be average folks, considering they had slain a beast. Lin was fuming. After learning her meticulously made knife was lifted, she opened up to her buddy, sharing her utter annoyance at the idea of someone grabbing something, a creation that took her half a year. Despite her companion's efforts to soothe her and divert her attention with alternatives, Lin remained resolute in her quest to find the culprit, even yearning for vengeance. However, after a sudden shift in perspective, Lin entertained the notion that her relative might have obtained the blade from her ancestor, and they resolved to inquire further with her kinsman. In her fury, Lin also condemned the perpetrator. Lin was startled by an unexpected sneeze. His astonishment arose from his constant self-admiration for his superb physique, so the sudden illness was baffling. Despite his bewilderment, he was determined to devise a strategy. Ling speculated he could perhaps utilize a cleanser to conceal the sickness odor, thus deterring other undead. However, he swiftly recognized this approach would probably only work in places with few zombies. Ling knew that in areas overflowing with undead, his strategy would probably fail. Ling reached deep inside his pocket and retrieved the vibrant green goo. He offered it to Yelian, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Yelian's expression instantly brightened with joy as she happily took the goo. She quickly lapped it up and gulped it down. As Yelian savored the snack, Ling suddenly felt a surge. Like a lightning bolt had hit him. The awful feeling overwhelmed him, and in a frenzy, he yelled Yelian's name. Ling crumpled to the ground, his awareness fading. Slowly his senses came back, and he awoke. Ling first thought he must have been imagining things, but then a quick realization hit him. Yelian was gone. A wave of fear swept over him. As he pondered the chance, he had lost his grip on Yelian, but a comforting feeling washed over him, showing their bond was still whole. This gave Ling inner peace and fortitude. As he concentrated on his mystical lash, it showed Yelian had gone downstairs. Ling was both thrilled and astonished by this discovery. He knew Yelian seldom moved by herself, except in combat, sparking intense inquisitiveness about the events that had caused her solo action. Ling went downstairs and was startled to see Yi at the window. Looking outside, Ling was overjoyed, seeing her there as a symbol of healing, and went to hug her from behind. But when he tried to speak to Yi, he found she was still quiet, making him think her memories were still lost. To comfort Yelian, he highlighted her feelings and autonomous actions were good signs urging her onward, as it would restore her to usual. Ling and Yelian carefully ventured out, only to discover streets flooded with the undead. As they observed the situation, a sudden surge of zombies attacked them. Yelian, demonstrating impressive nimbleness and fighting skills, engaged the zombies in a vicious fight, while Ling watched from safety. Ling marveled at Yes' remarkable transformation and the sheer strength of her innate character. However, he couldn't shake the anxiety that gripped him as he saw her merciless skill in killing the zombies. It was evident that Yi viewed the undead as mere pests to be eliminated. Without any compassion, Ling found himself disturbed by the notion of Yes developing instincts could affect her relations with people. He swore to himself, if she became a danger to humankind, he would use all his strength to halt her. Far off past the shopping center barriers, a horrifying spectacle appeared. A horde of zombies, their deceased and rotting bodies, progressing with a creepy resolve, was nearing two individuals, a man and a woman standing firm amid the looming peril. Through the mall's blocked windows, Lin heard the menacing noises of the approaching undead, and though stunned, he couldn't resist, pondering if other survivors needed rescuing. As the zombies howled and lunged threateningly onward, the man clutched a baseball bat firmly, terror evident in his face as he braced for defense. Next to him, the woman exhibited a striking composure, her hold unwavering on a hidden knife. With rapid and expert motions, she unsheathed the blade and initiated a bold assault against the advancing swarm. In a display of courageous selflessness, the woman implored the man to find refuge inside the mall, while she bravely stood her ground, engaging the infected in a ferocious and unrelenting fight. Her assurance emanated from each action, and it was apparent she possessed remarkable skills, surpassing that of a typical individual. As Ling contemplated the extraordinary spectacle unfolding before him, he couldn't dismiss the notion that maybe this encounter wasn't just a random incident. With Yet alongside him, Ling considered if now was the ideal time to intervene and provide aid to this phenomenal woman, ultimately choosing to proceed gingerly and cautiously towards this mysterious person. Ling was departing with Yelian from the vicinity. Abruptly, he noticed someone was requesting help. It was the guy he had observed at the shopping center. He was undoubtedly yelling. Ling observed the zombies, heard the yells, and approached him. That guy was still pleading for assistance, and it made Ling uneasy as the undead encircled him. Enya, he told Yelian to retreat. Naturally, there were justifications. Ling wondered if that lady was a survivor. Shed observed them if that lady possessed special abilities. Shed detected the oddity in Yilian. So he produced the blade he acquired from Wang's store and prepared to battle alone. That lady was still combating the undead. She requested the guy to quit yelling because his voice was luring more zombies. Then the guy informed the lady that Ling could aid them. Afterward, the lady noticed Ling battling the undead outside. With his remarkable mystical power and the blade he discovered in Wang's store, Ling was struggling intensely and slaying the zombies fiercely. Ling felt his mindset had enhanced, allowing him to engage 3 zombies at once. He commanded the zombies with his mystical whip and eliminating them concurrently. Ling didn't perceive those zombies as undead. Rather, he envisioned them as small figurines approaching individually. Ling brandished the dagger, aimed, and impaled the zombie skulls. The man observed Ling slaying zombies and was astonished. He urged the woman to witness Ling's ferocious combat, but the woman remained apathetic. The man was thrilled to find someone present, capable of rescuing them from the undead. So he requested the woman to venture onto the street. Emerging, they witnessed Ling still battling. That man hollered at Ling. Ling was startled upon noticing him, due to the multitude of zombies behind the couple. But that man beckoned Ling to follow. They sprinted extensively and concealed themselves behind a barrier. The lady stated the undead wouldn't trail them. Momentarily, the fella began expressing gratitude to Ling for his aid, but Ling told him to cease. The guy also remarked on Ling and his girl's brilliance. He commended Yalian profusely, as she possessed swiftness and great endurance. The dude contrasted Yalian with Ashana. That gal Shana became irate upon hearing this. She demanded the guy stop addressing him as Lu Yu. How Shana wished to express she wasn't anyone's property. So Lu soothed her, saying it was all right, they were schoolmates. Following their brief squabble, Lu expressed gratitude to Ling for accompanying them and invited him to join them at their residence for some relaxation. They had ample beer, Ling overheard, but he harbored uncertainties about Yilian. He pondered Yilian appeared ordinary, but upon closer inspection, they might detect an anomaly. Thus Ling declined their invitation. He informed them Yilian and he had other tasks. Lu wasn't prepared to abandon his companion. He began to pester, but Shana informed him if Ling and Yilian didn't want to accompany them, they shouldn't be coerced. Shana harbored some uncertainties. Shana noticed the blade in Ling's pocket and attempted to swipe it, but Ling perceived Shana's aim and reacted swiftly. Shana tumbled to the earth. Lu was bewildered. He inquired about Shana's actions. Shana didn't respond to Lu's inquiry. She summoned Ling and questioned the dagger's origin. Ling was irritated by the foolish question. He was indifferent. Shana pressed Ling to reveal the dagger's source. Ling claimed he obtained the dagger from a blade shop. Shana was astonished and inquired about the Wang establishment. Ling also gasped at Shana's question. He wondered about her knowledge. She stated Yelian was fearless. What caused Ling's fear? Shana informed Ling that Yelian was oblivious. She approached Yelian, embraced her hand, and addressed her as Sister. Yelian's eyes crimsoned, but Ling reprimanded her and instructed her to compose herself with his mystical whip. Yelian recovered instantly, and her eyes darkened. Ling told Shana Yelian was mute, but Shana was inquisitive and harbored many questions. So she teased Yelian, complimenting her beauty, but she remained silent. But Shana concealed her curiosity and uncertainties, so she insisted he accompany her to their quarters for rest. Shana invited Ling to join them for relaxation and offered to provide the beverages. Shana grasped Yelian's hand, compelling her to come along. She explained she hadn't encountered other survivors in ages, so she desired conversation. Lu and Ling trailed behind, but Ling remained perplexed by Yelian. He declared they were erring. Ling and Yelian accompanied Lu and Shana home. Other folks were present. They all gathered in a large chamber. Ling suspected the others might be ridiculing him, but Ling felt uneasy confronting them. He sensed he didn't belong, as they reveled and ostracized strangers. So Ling approached and apologized to his hosts. Ling informed Lu and Shana he didn't desire handouts. Both Shana and Lu were astonished, but one of the men spoke up. He taunted Ling, a bold man arriving with a lady. He inquired if Ling could provide for her, and he was lacking respectability. A woman questioned Shana if they had brought 2 additional companions. Shana confirmed. The group inquired about Lu and Shauna's contributions. Lu explained they brought ample groceries. Down south as well. The market still had plenty of groceries. They could share what Lu and Shauna grabbed, and then gather extra supplies. Ling was uninterested in their discussion. He reflected on the number of residents. But Lu was thrilled to welcome Ling. He was eager to introduce Ling around. He asked Ling's name, and Ling replied Ling Mo. He also presented Yilian as his partner. Learning their names, Lu was enthusiastic to recount their journey, so he informed everyone how Ling aided them against the undead. Lu and Shauna invited them to dine together, but one man was displeased. He reminded Lu they already had Shauna. They didn't require anyone else. Others in the room concurred. They didn't want an outsider. The guy's name was Lu Xin. A lady told Lu to quit ridiculing Ling. He just came to dine with them. But Lu was really mean. He said Ling wanted a complimentary dinner, and others were justifying him having that. Upon hearing that Lu got really riled up, he told Lu to quit bad-mouthing Ling, because he had been a great help. Without him there, who knows what would have become of them. But Lu didn't quit. He asked Lu how to stop being generous and offering Ling food and his own romantic partners due to scarcity. Lu urged Shauna to intervene since Lu persisted. Yet Shauna remained skeptical. Ling assumed Shauna recalled his reprimand. Therefore, she stayed silent. Ling felt utterly bored by this. He believed the entire household ridiculed him. However, he disliked arguing with jovial individuals and disregarded outsiders in that scenario. Thus, he declined nourishment again, desiring departure. Lu and Shauna were both astonished. But Lu continued repeating himself. Consequently, Ling lost his temper. He informed Lu he could dine, but shouldn't expect royal treatment. Lu also became enraged. But Ling grabbed Lu's collar, lifting him. Ling also punched Lu's face. Everyone felt bewildered and scared. Yet Ling persisted, threatening Lu with a strike. Assuming any remark from Lu angered Ling. Head strike Lu again. Lu sought Shauna's assistance. Shauna instructed Ling to release Lu. Ling expressed remorse to her. But Shauna remained unconvinced since Head hit Lu. Lu questioned the reason for the slap and received another. To confirm his broadcast was still live, Shauna requested Lu to retract his offensive statements. Fear gripped the room. Everyone remained seated. Lu believed he used no harsh language. His sole intention was saving the food. Yet he was compelled to apologize to Ling under duress. And Ling subsequently released him. Lu expressed deep regret to Ling. He added that he never anticipated such events. Ling inquired about the identities of those relying on Lu and Shauna for sustenance. Lu explained they were fellow students at the same boarding academy. Lu also revealed Lu Xin hailed from an affluent background, thus explaining his long-standing ill temperament. They need not search. Lu stated Shauna was their group's finest member, and he desired Ling and Yilian to unite with them. But Ling was enraged he was departing with Yilian. Ling declared he lacked time to provide for that wicked Lu. Shauna attempted to halt them. She mentioned it would be nightfall soon, so Ling and Yilian could remain overnight. Shauna added Ling could have coped, but Yilian would have encountered numerous hardships. Therefore, they should repose at their dwelling. But Ling was unwilling to listen. He proclaimed they would locate a spot within the remaining city. Certainly, yet Sean grasped Ling's hand, requesting him to stay. Ling was astonished. He wondered about Sean's intentions. Sean declared Ling was a gifted and adept combatant. Furthermore, he was fearless. Thus, his assistance to Shauna would be invaluable. Ling declined to aid Shauna. But Shauna was determined to not release Ling and Yilian, so she insisted she had spoken no ill of Ling and desired his presence. Shauna informed him they were all fighters and that Ling possessed exceptional abilities, so he should aid them. Ling removed his hand from Shauna and stated he couldn't assist when corrupt individuals were engaged in combat. Ling added it was Shauna's decision to nourish them, but he remained quiet on that matter. If Shauna desired to sustain them with Ling's help, he would decline. Shauna inquired if Ling would assist them if they weren't connected to the others. Ling declined to answer. Shauna stated they were pupils from No. 3 Secondary Academy in X City. She wondered if Ling was familiar with it. Ling acknowledged knowing Key Secondary Academy, and it was a boarding school as well. Shauna mentioned they left some fellow students at the school when they departed from there, and she intended to retrieve them all upon finding a sanctuary. Shauna and her companions returned to the school. Approaching proved challenging for them. He inquired if Ling could assist her entry into the academy. Ling questioned his potential compensation, leaving both Shauna and Lu stunned. Shauna and Lu's actions infuriated Ling. He declared his refusal to provide free service. Lu became overwhelmed with emotion, proclaiming universal aid during calamities. Yet he perceived a pervasive wickedness. Thus Ling sought recompense for assistance. Ling presented his prepared response. Benevolence, he asserted, depended on the catastrophe. Amidst a zombie-infested world, order and ethics became unattainable. Shauna appeared unfazed by Ling's reply, deeming Ling's request entirely reasonable. But Shauna spoke, sarcastically gesturing towards Ling's dagger, claiming he had already secured his reward, as her relative Wang Lin had crafted it. Shauna mentioned herself and her kinswoman Wang Lian. Both acquired blacksmithing from their grandpa. She also claimed her abilities surpassed Lin's. But the dagger was undeniably exceptional, so Shauna had prepaid Lin. Lin was astonished hearing Wang Lin's name. He envisioned Wang Lin as a frail small girl, but she possessed the talent to craft blades. And undoubtedly Wang Lin's creations were remarkable, so she must be quite adept. Ling conveyed his sorrow, believing Wang perished young. Shauna informed Ling they had an agreement. If Ling fretted over his sweetheart, he could leave her with others at the residence. They would look after her. But Ling dissented, saying Yilian was safe with him, and he assumed Shauna was unaware Yi was a mutant zombie. If he left her with others in the house, Yi would slaughter them all upon their return. They would find only corpses. Shauna found Ling bothersome. He did a good job safeguarding his sweetheart. She also mentioned Yi was a beautiful girl, so Ling should value her. Ling remained silent. He envisioned the school grounds teeming with the undead, and most that were likely deceased. Ling figured Shauna might have considered that, but she wasn't ready to surrender. Ling was also puzzled by Shauna. He couldn't tell if Shauna was determined or just naive. Meanwhile, Lu entered the area where others were gathered. He informed them Ling consented to assist Shauna and Lu locate the educators and pupils they'd abandoned at the school. As they departed, a lady wondered if they should proceed, since the location was swarming with the infected. But China disregarded her and stated they had already deliberated, and she was returning to rescue them. She informed the woman, if those instructors and students weren't protecting them, walkers would have gotten them. And that lady was speechless afterwards. One guy in the bunch said Shauna had a valid point. It would be a selfless move if they didn't return to rescue their peers and educators. He also suggested they go as a unit, but Link rejected his idea. The man inquired about the reason. So Ling explained the group lacked fighting skills. It would be easiest for biters to ambush them en masse. And Ling believed they desired to be near Shauna because they felt insecure without her. And Ling wasn't up for playing caretaker. Shauna requested Ling allow the group to depart. He needn't fret over their well-being. All she desired was Ling's assistance if they faced trouble. Ling consented, but the individuals in the group were frightened. They contemplated their course of action and how they could battle the infected, and agreed to share a bed with her. And there wasn't a need for an extra bed, as the arrangement was short-term. Shauna inquired if Yelian would undress before sleeping, because Ling was possessing Yelian. He could overhear Shanice's every word. Yelian remained silent, so Shauna asked if she felt embarrassed, and if so, Shauna offered assistance. But Ling fretted over Yelian's low body temperature. He wondered if Shauna might discover something while helping Yelian undress. Ling perceived everything while controlling Yelian. He mused that girls engaged in strange bedroom activities, but he had a plan to bewilder Shauna. Ling assumed Shauna initiated this game, so he should simply comply. Ling instructed Yelian to help Shauna undress. Yelian leaped onto Shauna and began unbuttoning her clothes. It happened so quickly Shauna was bewildered and apprehensive, but Shauna had zero plans to quit, and she sensed something unusual. Even though Yelena was female, Shauna felt like a man was watching her undress, so she felt embarrassed and suggested to Yelena they should retire for the night immediately. Lin could comprehend Shanice's emotions, so he believed she regretted her words. Ling simply wanted to tease Shauna, so he told Yelian it was quite late and removed Shanice's clothing. Yelian obeyed the command. Shauna was mortified and she wept. Shauna promised Yelian she would never misbehave again, so Yelian shouldn't repeat that action. Ling grasped Shanice's feelings. He recognized Shauna was too young to flirt with. Ling directed Yelian to return Shanna's garments. Ling told Yelian to get some sleep, and she did this when Shauna noticed Yelian returning to bed. She was stunned the other ladies were observing Shauna when she was just draped in a sheet. Shauna grew irritated and instructed them to sleep. It was nearly midnight, but Shauna remained awake. She told Yelian she was lovely. If she smiled more, she'd be even more alluring. She also told you she believed Ling pressured you to remain with him. But when she learned you couldn't speak, Shauna reasoned Ling couldn't be a villain. Then she advised Yelian to rest, as they needed to attend school in the morning and express gratitude first. Ling considered Shauna had significant duties to provide for them all, but later he figured Shauna had brought it upon herself. So, with nothing to do, Ling drifted to sleep. In the morning, everyone gathered for a meal. Lu gave some food to Ling and inquired if he desired more. Lu and the other fellow were observing from behind a barrier. Lu claimed Ling took their provisions but neglected their care. The other guy warned him to stop or face another beating. Lu, enraged, called the man a yellow belly. Ling inquired about the group's armaments, but Lu stated besides Shauna's claymore, they only possess cutlery. Ling declared it's preferable to be unarmed. He instructed Lu to secure one for each person. Ling added a lone walker was barely stronger than an average Joe. Upon hearing this, a man in the group suggested with some courage they could put up a fight. Lu eavesdropped from behind the barrier and assumed everyone believed battling the undead was easy. He wasn't prepared to join the group and confront the horde. They departed for the academy, needing to arrive before midday. Shauna dispatched the infected with her blade. She urged the group to follow. Lu found some courage. He began dispatching the undead with his blade. Ling observed the group from afar and believed they were collaborating effectively. If the group wasn't so large, repelling the undead would be simpler. Ling shut his eyes and commanded his mystical whip, through which he was manipulating Yelian. Ling recalled that since Yelian consumed the mutated gel, she had no desire for gels from typical undead. For Yelian to develop, she'd require more mutated undead. But it was crucial, so Ling pondered. He noticed mutated undead in the bus and the knife shop area. They were in enclosed spaces with individuals present, so he had to visit hospitals, shopping centers, educational institutions, and so on to locate other mutated undead. Ling also contemplated this upon reaching the school. He'd venture out solo to seek out any infected at the academy. They nearly arrived at the schoolhouse, but unexpectedly a limb burst through the entrance pane and snatched a fellow from the group, pulling him inward. The man pleaded for assistance. Everyone was bewildered. Abruptly, Ling appeared and leaped through the glass portal. He entered blade in hand. The monster had already slain the man, but Ling took control and ultimately bisected the creature with his weapon. Shauna rushed over to ascertain the man's fate, but Ling said there was no purpose as he was already deceased. Everyone was distraught. The party remained stationary, where the victim's remains lay on the ground. Shauna was grieved. Other ladies inquired about their next course of action, but Shauna hesitated before answering. She told them to proceed onward. Ling observed Shauna, and he deemed Shauna to be foolish, because she was quite determined in the crucial moment. Ling instructed Yelian to accompany him, but Lu disapproved of their choice. So when his companion urged him to follow by tugging his arm, he became enraged and commanded his companion to cease. His pal suggested they pursue them, as they had already commenced moving, but Lu faulted his buddy for that. Lu told him that on account of him, they were forced to visit the academy and an individual parish. Despite that, Lau's comrades still attempted to persuade him. He inquired of Lu how they could endure if Shauna and Lu Yahoo were absent. He added that Ling is already being severe with them. Ling could compel Shauna to do likewise with them, and what would transpire then? But Lu was not receptive to those words. He informed his acquaintance that even if they trailed Shauna, they would be powerless to act. Lu was furious with Ling for striking him, and he was also displeased with Shauna. Lu's pal said it would be advantageous for them if a couple of folks remained. Lu must have pleased Shauna since he relied on her. He advised Lu to get wiser, because Shauna would never become Lau's girl. It infuriated Lu. His buddy also mentioned Ling MO was off limits, so Lu couldn't harm him. Irked, Lu got irritated with his companion, Wang Chung, and called him a two-faced individual. Lu's rage towards Ling and Shauna became intolerable, but Wang ignored Lu. He joined the crew despite Lu labeling him a phony. The posse was outside a structure. They observed from a concealed spot that the undead were wandering around. Abruptly, Shauna suggested they should lure those walkers away. Lu and Wong overheard them and became perplexed. Shauna declared she would grab those zombies' attention, and meanwhile Ling Mo would defeat them. But Ling refused and declared he would lure them away. Shauna was astonished to hear this. But Ling instructed her to seek shelter, and when the undead would begin to congregate towards him on the street, the party could traverse the area instantly. Shauna was skeptical, so she inquired if Ling was certain, because Shauna was prepared to undertake the mission. But Ling urged them to depart. Abruptly, Ling sensed a hand on his shoulder. It was Lu. He was overwhelmed with emotion after hearing Ling's choice. Therefore, he desired to express gratitude to Ling for all of them. But Ling assumed he simply wanted to leave, because he didn't want to supervise that group. Nevertheless, that wasn't everything. Ling also considered if Shauna went to divert those zombies, she would never return. Thus, it would be preferable if Ling could handle the task. Wong approached Shauna to speak, but Shauna interrupted him and told him to conceal himself. Shauna advised Ling to exercise caution. Ling requested just 5 minutes to locate a spot and predicted a zombie gathering afterward. Shauna was utterly perplexed upon hearing this. Ling and Yahello proceeded to a building called Link Phone. Ling entered the location and encountered 3 zombies. Upon Ling's entry, zombies attempted an assault, but Ling subdued them with his mystical wit. Ling realized controlling more zombies while managing Yahello would be difficult. Therefore, manipulating just 3 zombies seemed prudent. Ling reached an area filled with telephones. He fastened several phones onto the zombies' necks and placed a phone in a zombie's hand. Ling cranked the external stereo to its highest setting and departed the premises with Yahello. The enthralled zombies trailed behind them. Ling activated the external stereo, and the zombies charged towards a structure, with phones dangling from their necks. Zombies were ubiquitous, external to the structure. Those manipulated corpses sprinted pursuing the audio frequency, as Ling abruptly commanded. Every corpse outside mirrored the frequency. Conversely, Shauna and her companions located a sanctuary, but Shauna observed Ling as he directed the corpses to trail the frequency vertically. Shauna recalled Ling's guidance on surpassing. Instantly, when the street corpses converged toward him, Shauna deemed Ling foolish, but she urged her group to depart swiftly. All were mobile, and Shauna contemplated. If Ling and Yahello both occupied the hospital edifice, the street corpses amassed and commenced ascending the structure. Lu prompted Shauna to leave, but Shauna remained pensive, and abruptly she witnessed Ling and Yahello sprinting toward them. Ling instructed Shauna to depart. That's all he could manage. A corpse plummeted from the structure, impacting the street, and the remaining corpses detected Shauna. Ling and Yahello fled, so pursuit began. Ling grasped Shauna and Yahello's hands, urging them to escape. A horde of undead pursued them. Shauna inquired about their course of action. Ling instructed her to seek refuge, as it was futile to combat the multitude in an exposed area. Ling, Shauna, and Yahello reached the group's hiding spot, but the undead also sought entry. Their groans irritated Yahello, but Ling hushed Yahello, intending to eliminate them individually. As the undead breached the building, they commenced picking them off one by one. The other girls wielded blades, but fear consumed them. Lu and Wong were also apprehensive. They contemplated their options. Abruptly, 2 undead emerged from the stairway, startling the concealed group. One boy confronted the undead, paralyzed with fear. He urged the undead to depart. Wong Chung shoved him toward the horde. The boy cried for aid and comprehended. Wong propelled him. Another walker advanced toward a girl, growling. The girl was petrified, believing her demise was imminent. Abruptly, Yahello arrived with superb combat prowess and assaulted the undead. She seized the blade from the girl's hand and eliminated the walker. Everyone was astonished to witness this. Moments prior, Shauna, Ling, and Lu battled the remaining undead. They vanquished many, but countless remained. Ling commanded the horde and destroyed them. Suddenly, he sensed something and realized Ling could no longer manipulate any more undead. Briefly, as he had reached his threshold, he instructed Shauna and Lu to retreat slightly and decelerate. They concurred, but Lu inquired about Ling's next course of action. Ling plunged his dagger into a walker's torso and advised Lu to prioritize his own safety. He also directed Yilian to eliminate the other two undead, but not to overuse her abilities. Yilian leaped and dispatched those zombies swiftly. Each zombie was slain and lay motionless. Leo was frightened initially, but upon seeing the lifeless zombies, he exhaled in relief. Shauna inquired if two individuals were unaccounted for. Lu stated he witnessed two people ascend during the commotion. After hearing this, Shauna requested Lu to investigate upstairs, but Ling intervened, suggesting they must be deceased. Ling mentioned zombies were present on the ground floor. They infested the second story as well. Thus, two people couldn't ascend without being killed. Abruptly, they heard irritating noises. Shauna felt great concern for her companions. She believed 4 individuals were already eliminated. She might be unable to rescue the remaining. But Link consoled her, stating it wasn't her responsibility. He added that circumstances might deteriorate if Shauna abandoned her group to their initial sanctuary. Shauna expressed gratitude to Ling for comforting her. She contemplated the strength of both Ling and Yailin. Conversely, a boy named Hao blamed Wang for their predicament. He stated if Wang hadn't compelled them to come, nothing would have occurred. Wang feared he was instructing Hao to release him, but Hao desired to slay him with a blade. Shauna intervened, cautioned him, and Lu struck him. Suddenly, Ling observed Wang's menacing expression. He wasn't scared, but Wang intended to harm Hao. Lu attempted to pacify Hao and declared those weapons weren't for their own people. Wang suppressed her rage and told Hao he was alright. He also informed Lu that Hao might be agitated, so Lu should release him. The conflict was resolved. So Shauna instructed them to leave. Ling was still watching Wang. So Wang approached Ling grinning, inquiring why Ling was observing him. Ling remained silent. He simply instructed them to depart. A Lihua grocery store entryway was present. Inside the store, a monstrous undead creature was occupied. It possessed crimson eyes and roared like a fiend. The undead heard a rapping at the portal and commenced to bellow more savagely. Ling, Shauna, Lu and her companions traversed the Lihua's supermarket entry. They stepped inside the market and observed nobody, so Lu stated the area was deserted. Shauna requested Ling to investigate within, and they would provide support for Ling. Ling instructed them to separate and reconvene at the entrance. Shauna directed her 2 companions to accompany her, and the remaining individuals to explore, to seek out anything advantageous. Ling ventured inside with Yilian and pondered that post-skirmish, his mindset had progressed, and his comprehension had greatly enhanced. It enabled him to readily recall every minute detail. Shauna ended his life with his own blade. Her companions were apprehensive to witness it. Sheena stated it was necessary, as he would endure more pain if left there longer. Shauna was distraught, and Ling observed this. Shauna wondered how Ling and Yilian eliminated a mutant zombie so swiftly. She inquired about it with Ling, but Ling gave an unclear response. He claimed it was a difficult battle, and he was also injured. Shauna sensed Ling was concealing something, but she was unaware of its nature. Abruptly, Lu appeared and announced he had something to share with Shauna. Shauna requested Ling's presence. Lu declared Lu wouldn't make it, as his wound's hue resembled a zombie's. Head turned into a zombie if they allowed it. Shauna replied she suspected as much, but Lu inquired about possible actions. Lu proposed bringing him along, but Shauna refused instantly. Shauna informed him everyone was evading Lu, making it impossible to accompany him. Lu inquired about their course of action, and Shauna consulted Ling. But Ling declined involvement in the situation, having previously stated his non-participation. So Sheena suggested leaving sustenance for Lu, assuming his survival and lack of zombification. They would have included Lu upon their return. Ling believed Lu would disapprove, and their provisions would be squandered. Nevertheless, it was preferable to his inclusion. Shauna and Lu departed to persuade Lu. Shauna assured him zombies wouldn't discover him, due to Lau's office being concealed. She also mentioned her inability to take chances. After returning from school, they would check on Lu and bring him along. Lu felt both irritated and infuriated, but he concurred, so Shauna requested Lu relocate. Undoubtedly, Shauna was heartbroken, but Ling pondered what could be more cruel: eliminating a gravely wounded companion or abandoning a friend. Ling also believed Shauna was doing the proper thing, but a self-centered individual like Lu might sacrifice them all for survival. A new notion suddenly entered his thoughts. He considered it plausible that When someone was wounded by a mutated zombie, that individual would become a mutated zombie, so Lu might transform into a mutated zombie. They arrived at number 3 high school. They waited outside the structure. Link noted the area was eerily silent, so he suspected there would definitely be trouble. Lu stated that when the catastrophe began, most people fled, only a handful of students and teachers remained, so the building would certainly contain numerous zombies. Suddenly Link sensed something. He believed boarding schools were ideal for the undead. Prayer wasn't required there, but killing was plentiful, so new mutant zombies were inevitable. Leon's thoughts clarified the feeling was significant. Yulian must have detected mutant zombies. That's why he felt that way. Shauna urged him to enter, but Ling told her to hold. He also declared their partnership dissolved. When they arrived at the supermarket entry, Shauna was stunned by this, but Ling informed her that their journeys diverged, they should separate. Shauna looked concerned, but expressed gratitude to Ling and Yahello. Lu wanted to give Ling provisions for their travels, but Ling declined and told Lu to keep them. He also informed Shauna he had business at the school. They might encounter each other again. Yahello and Ling entered the academy as Shauna observed. Ling suspected mutated undead were present, as Yes' eyes glowed crimson. Ye and Ling approached the lift, and Ling was astonished the lift still functioned. Yahello braced for combat, but Ling was unaware, so he attempted to restrain Yahello with his enchanted whip. He pondered again. Numerous mutated undead might be concealed within the lift. After observing Yahello's response, Ling instructed Yi to retreat and hurled a rock at the lift switch, halting it. Ling stood prepared with 2 blades. As the lift descended to the ground level, Ling heard a mutated undead bellow. A hand emerged from the lift, and a savage mutated undead exited. The undead roared like a beast. Ling anticipated this and assaulted the undead with his blades. But the undead seized both blades and roared once more. Ling discovered the mutant's hands were reinforced. Sharp weapons couldn't harm him. Ling requested Yahello to strike the mutant, but the mutant possessed immense strength. He battled both Yahello and Ling. When Ling attempted to pierce him with his blades, the mutant resisted and bellowed louder. Ling concentrated and secured his neck with his enhanced magic whip and urged Yahello to attack once more. Yahello assaulted him and severed his right hand. The mutant roared fiercely. Ling pondered when mutant zombies attained advanced levels. Subduing them wasn't simple, but with the mutant missing a hand, he was diminished, so Ling instructed Yahello to strike again. Yahello and Ling repeatedly assaulted the mutant zombie. Ling called upon Yahello for the ultimate strike, and Ling restrained the mutant with his whip. Yahello struck him and extracted his green gel. Ling breathed a sigh of relief. Yahello gave the gel to Ling, and he noticed it was a novel type of gel, superior to the previous one. Yahello desired to consume that gel immediately, but Ling stated it was a precarious location, so she shouldn't have the gel there. Ling placed the gel back in a pouch and stored it in his jacket pocket. He requested Yahello to depart as more mutated zombies would appear. They were prepared when Ling and Yahello spotted mutated zombies. They assaulted and eliminated them as well. After every kill, Yahello delivered the gels to Ling. Ling appeared exhausted when Yi gave him a gel. He observed the color was unremarkable. He possessed a total of 8 gels at that point. 2 gels appeared mundane to him, but the remaining ones were exceptional. Ling informed Yahello those gels would facilitate her further evolution. Ling pondered while controlling Yahello. He sensed no division between them. It felt as though Yi was an extension of Ling's body. He believed he could manage 2 mutated zombies simultaneously with his current mindset. But the sole issue was Ling's own physical limitations. He informed Yahello he felt exhausted after battling all morning. But what astonished Ling was Yahello's strength. She appeared completely energized. Ling noticed the potent gel in his pocket once more and contemplated gaining power. But he requested Yahello's assistance due to his fatigue. Shauna and her companions neared the classroom, so Shauna cautioned everyone to be vigilant. Lu questioned the possibility after all this. It seemed improbable for their peers and instructors to have survived. He voiced this to Shauna. Wang added they lacked sustenance and hydration, so if they remained, they would be deceased. Shauna informed them she was ready. She also mentioned they vowed to their peers and instructors, so they should honor it. Shauna was ready for anything with her blade. and requested others to investigate. Shauna tapped on the classroom entrance, and someone inquired about who was present. Shauna and her companions were relieved to find those individuals living. Shauna announced it was her, and she arrived to retrieve them. A gentleman opened the door, uttering Shana's name. His countenance and attire were covered in gore. He was Instructor Wang Lu. Questioned his condition, but Shauna suspected something. She instructed her group to pause and question the educator. If there were over 20 educators and pupils when they departed, and if the undead didn't assault them, how only a handful of students endured? Instructor Wang stated it was a mishap, but he didn't persuade Shauna whatsoever. She commanded the educator to move aside and proceeded inside. Shauna witnessed something bizarre, and she realized that Instructor Wang and several others had slain the rest and consumed them.